Almost 2 decades ago, when my son was born, I was inspired to make the world a cleaner place for his future. Back then, the garbage strike in Toronto made me reflect on how much waste I created. I vowed to do better for my son Sebastian and for the planet. Then I challenged a typical family to keep their garbage for 3 months. I monitored their consumption, made a film about it, and became famous for 2 seconds.
Andrew Nisker is the director and producer of that documentary, Garbage.
My goal is basically to raise the awareness, to start thinking about the garbage that they create themselves.
You were quite surprised by how much trash you generated in a day, right?
I was quite surprised and a little bit upset, actually, that I could do that much.
Thanks to my film and the McDonald family for keeping their trash, audiences started to think about the waste they created. Garbage launched my career. It made a difference. And well, that was then. Can you come today? 2 decades later, 2 more kids in the mix, my message to them hasn't changed. Always take care of the environment.
Wait, I found a perfectly good toothbrush.
And now that Sebastian's all grown up, I hope he can see the impact my films have had. What do you think about the environment and what's going on with the world right now?
I think we're kind of...
Oops. Yes, there's still lots of work to do. Sorry, Sebastian. Turns out Canadians are still creating a lot of trash. Over 36 million tons per year. So I decided to make another film. Because one thing is clear, we need to do more. And it all starts with us. Getting people to keep their trash and let me film it wasn't easy the first time. I'm trying to find a volunteer who'd be willing to keep their garbage for 3 months.
No.
You think that's gross?
Yeah.
Not interested. It's gonna start sinking.
Oh, man.
Has our relationship to waste changed over the years? Would you keep your trash for 3 months?
No.
It would be too much of a mess.
I don't like roaches or rats.
That's got to be smelly.
Yes. Just when I was about to give up, the Mason family came into my life.
Hey guys, how are you?
Paul, Janet, and their 2 kids. The Masons and their dog, Chewy. You guessed it. Named after... have volunteered to keep their trash for 3 months.
March 6, 2023, the last time for 3 months I put my garbage out. Around 2.5 weeks of the garbage. Next time I put garbage out, 3 months of the garbage. Nuts.
I think he likes the fruit of the bottom.
The Masons represent a typical Canadian family of 4. I wanted to see how they compare to big city condo dwellers in the heart of Toronto. But that wasn't easy. In fact, it was impossible. After months of audition calls, seemed nobody wanted to track or store their garbage in their condo. Go figure. So I turned to my sister-in-law and her fiancé, Aizaz.
But I think, we're eager learners, and I think we want to discover how much we can do better. And I think just consciously being on this journey, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds when we go and do our shopping. So this is our humble abode, a typical downtown condo. And this is our cozy bedroom because we share it with Aizaz's jersey collection. His religion is soccer.
But as we kick off production, tragedy strikes. My family loses its steadiest, most diligent and hardworking member, the Admiral.
I don't know what to say. It was very sad that the Admiral was gone.
So I put everything on pause to say goodbye.
In the early years, I didn't know the Admiral that well because I was working in Toronto.
We comfort each other in these darkest of hours. And as the threat of climate change I spoke of so long ago has become a reality, we struggle to find a way forward.
Der Admiral würde das niemals akzeptieren. Papierteller ist nicht einmal kalt. Die Ungerechtigkeit.
Das ist wahr.
And now my family gathers to say goodbye.
The Admiral is gone. Now the question is, what will step up to replace it? 40,000 loads over many decades of service has kept us sane and sanitized. We will miss you, old friend.
Auf Wiedersehen, Admiral.
But now it's time to say goodbye.
It's true what they say. They just don't build things the way they used to.
When you walked out the door, I said goodbye, amor. Happiness was gone forevermore. Bonjour, tristesse. Hello, sadness. It's all over now. Good to you.
Today's appliances give 5 to 10 years of service. The Admiral lasted decades longer, 50 years.
Friends, neighbors, we are gathered here to honor our friend.
Longevity of products, it's very well known. I mean, you buy a dishwasher today or you buy a washer and dryer today, you're not planning on having that in 5 to 10 years. And the cost of repairing make it justified to just replace it with another, which is too bad. You know, I mean, you look at how long that dishwasher was around and the way it was able to be fixed as the years went on with a broken wire here or a loose wire here. It lasted all that long till the actual engine burnt out. It's pretty impressive.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dump.
But there's hope for us yet.
Even friends.
In this story, the revolution starts with you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Oh, Canada, our true patriot love.
Big picture, I live in Canada. Some of you might think it's an environmentally friendly place to be. Boy, have times changed. Canada creates a lot of garbage. In fact, the United States and Canada are among the top garbage-producing countries in the world. Canada throws out over 16 million tons of residential waste per year. Per person, that's 433 kilograms, or nearly 1,000 pounds. You don't have to look far to see that we are sinking in our own garbage. This guy, with one of the world's oldest dishwashers, is my father-in-law. And he has been for the past 10 years. In a strange twist of fate, my in-laws are in sanitation engineering. His company, Wasteco, looks at waste as a commodity, an opportunity, a treasure. He also let me in on a few secrets.
Doesn't smell too bad.
That never does. What you see in this plant is anything that we handle outside of the waste stream. So the truck leaves here with a full load of empty containers, comes back with a full load of full containers. So the material comes in like that. Then we dump it to these tippers. Now this is going to facilities that are turning this into gas. We took away the paper from the waste stream. Then we took away the cardboard. Then we took away organics, cardboard, and paper.
Over the past few decades, we've created a sophisticated way to curate our waste. Starting at home, we sort it into bins. Then the garbage truck takes it away to places like this. Then they divide it up, and what's left is either burned, buried, or shipped offshore. So is recycling just wish cycling?
Some of the municipal systems that were out there a few years back, they had two waste streams. They had wet and dry, basically. So they were touting this large diversion number. But the reality was, when they took out the materials that weren't recyclable out of the streams that they brought in, the diversion rate wasn't anywhere near what they were talking about. That's the areas where general public are looking at materials and feeling that they're being recycled. Another one was black plastic. Commercially and industrially, our customers, how come we can't recycle it when municipalities are? And they go, well, they're not. They're picking it up, but they're not recycling it. There is no home for it. You go into any mall, people don't understand what should be going in which one. And again, cross-contamination is the biggest defeater of recycling, and that happens constantly on those. Nobody understands really what recycling is, product to product, and nobody understands when you mix those products what happens to it. And it just becomes, value just goes right down immediately.
It's been 20 years, and sadly, things are getting worse. The world's corporations and governments are not being bold enough in their climate initiatives, which includes reducing our waste. We need to do better, starting at home.
The chute is this way.
Al and Aizaz won't be keeping their waste in the condo. They will track it and then get rid of it here.
This one is the garbage and organics, and then this side's recycling.
What's your prediction over this?
Our garbage bin is quite small. If we fill it like once every 4 days, so that's like 7 a month, 21 bins. And then recycling is the same.
And how much of wet stuff?
Probably like 40. I'd love to see her math.
Okay. So how many bags of garbage do you think you'll have?
I'm gonna say 12 small bags. And recycling, we actually have a lot of. So I'm gonna say times 2. So 24 bags, 1 organics bag a week. So 12, 12, and 24.
Okay.
We're gonna clear this out tomorrow, right? I'm gonna lay a tarp down.
Paul and Janet are committed to keeping most of it around in their backyard. And that takes some preparation.
Dewey, agreed? We go for 6 bags every 2 weeks, right?
Okay. I don't usually take out the garbage.
Yes.
So, okay.
So, so we go. So 6 weeks, that's 6 bags, 36 bags.
So we're doing this 5 a week for 3 months. So I think 4 is 20. 60 bags of garbage. And recycling, maybe 15 to 20 bags.
Are you strong? You muscles. Oh, you're so strong. A quarter of what you said.
Okay.
How many rat traps do you think you're gonna need to buy?
I didn't even think we had to buy any.
You can do it.
I don't even know. Like, what's a rat trap? What does it even look like? Is it like a big mouse trap?
Yeah.
Oh. 4?
Look at that! Bullseye!
Okay. So 4 packs for Mike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Today we're gonna clean out our shed, throw all the junk in there, into our garage, with all our other junk. So for 3 months, all our garbage and recycling will be stored in this shed.
Hi!
Wait.
Miss you, baby girl. Here.
So now that you have a growing family, find it a challenge to keep down the food waste?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because the kids are super picky, I would always try to give them at least one vegetable, and I still do, but we never force them to eat it, so a lot of times it would go to waste. You want more? Morgan, you have to eat some of that first, okay? Good job.
Chewy, come here.
And of all of their waste, food is a bigger problem than you may think. Each year, we waste enough food to feed every Canadian for 5 months. But the good news is, small steps to curb food waste can make a big impact. Feeding Chewy is one solution. But what else can we do with our table scraps? A little surprise for you.
Surprise! Whoa, what's that, Clarky?
Worms eat garbage.
That's
All
right.
Garbage.
It's just literally worms eating your garbage?
It's the microbes that are doing most of the work. The worms are actually helping, they're mixing it and they're eating all the gooey stuff coming off the decomposition.
I like bugs.
Whoa!
I do like eat worms.
No, you're not gonna eat worms. Worms eat our garbage.
Do worms. One, composting is easy, and two, it's absolutely necessary. It's like almost criminal that we're throwing organic waste in the garbage because it just goes to landfill and becomes methane and stinky effluent.
Put it in bed. There you go.
With the yard set up and worms munching away, where does their other waste go? If not in their yard, for 3 months. Unlike the condo couple's trash, which is trucked 200 kilometers to the city of London, Ontario, burning diesel fuel from transport trucks going down Canada's busiest highway, the Masons' waste ends up closer to home, on the other end of town.
Before we go for our tour of the landfill, there's various hazards in the landfill, and you'll be required to wear personal
safety gear?
Safety gear, yeah.
I get to look like you?
That's right.
Awesome, I love that. I created more garbage for you right there.
Yes.
What are some of the hazards that that I got to be looking for out there?
There's bears, coyotes.
Bears?
That's right.
So even the bears can see that lunch is coming out.
Yeah.
Terminator of the landfill.
If it's properly, yeah.
Let's go look at landfill.
All right.
I love landfill. First, we visit the main landfill where the big dump trucks leave their waste.
So this is the working face of the landfill.
Right over there we see, look at that, there's diapers over there, plastic bags, dog food. Ever wonder what happens to your yard waste?
This is our leaf and yard waste compost pad. Throughout the city, we have curbside waste. So we collect about 1,500 tons of leaves and various, grass clippings and things that people clean their yards, and we make compost out of it.
And this is where hazardous waste goes, like solvents and even household cleaners. It says future, but it definitely looks like it's from the past.
That's all our flams there. 2 or 3 full skids per day of flams get filled. One guy can pretty much be full-time on bulbs here. That's how many bulbs we get.
And this says it's pesticides.
Yeah.
2,4-D, DDT, blackleaf.
That's probably the most dangerous of all of our stuff that we get.
On my way out, I visit the public drop-off area. Even here we have hazardous waste, a giant bag full of methadone. Bottles on the ground, up on the pile there. There's more of it, improperly disposed of. And this just really is really upsetting to see. Mike explains that if it doesn't end up in the landfill, it's recycled. And that excites me. Well, that was until I contacted the company responsible for Sault Ste. Marie's recycling, and they refused to be a part of the film. Which reminded me of the time in 2008 when I discovered that Toronto's garbage was actually sent to Michigan.
How many trucks come by? Roughly 130 trucks in each direction. Give you a total of 260 trucks a day.
Say it's like a bunch of pachyderm coming down my road. It's just a loud thunder early in the morning, and it's just a continuous thing all day long. Your house actually shakes.
With Sault Ste. Marie being a border town, you guessed it, it borders Michigan. I was curious to know if Canada still diverted its waste to the United States. According to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, 88,532 cubic yards of Canada's waste was dumped in Chippewa County in 2022. In fact, 18.6% of Michigan's intake of waste comes from Canada. This report points out that the majority of waste is municipal and commercial waste. Talk about not being so neighborly. The last time I checked, there was no shortage of land in Canada to deal with our waste. But what concerns me more, years later, is what's ending up in the Great Lakes, the world's largest body of fresh water that we all share. The Masons live near Lake Superior, and the condo couple live beside Lake Ontario. Tell me what you know about Lake Ontario.
Oh my God, facts about Lake Ontario.
I know that it's meant to be really polluted over here.
It reminds me of the products we use that end up being flushed down the drain. And in 2017, 4% of what we flush goes directly into the watershed as raw sewage. That's millions of liters, a chemical soup that damages our fragile ecosystem. Now there's something new to think about. One more thing you can do at home that gets very little attention.
We've actually just started using a grease jar.
Why did you do that?
Well, I actually learned that you have to do that because at my rental unit, my tenants really wrecked our sinks. And I never really thought about that before.
Oh, there you go. That's our grease cup. We want you to put your bacon fat, your gravies, you know, any of that stuff in there. We've got a fire message. We partnered up with our fire department. Our fire department said the #1 fire out there is cooking fires, right?
Fatberg fires.
Wow. Pop it up.
Folks, this is a fatberg, a mass of grease embedded with objects we flush down the drain.
What I want you to notice is the paraphernalia from drugs, needles. Like, there's a lot of needles in this grease. So this goes down probably about a good 6 feet. I've been here when it's been almost right to the lid.
Barry is so passionate about ridding the world of fatbergs. He takes to the streets in his spare time. And today, I get to help out.
No, I don't.
Dreams really do come true.
Kind of cozy in here. I'm fogging the fatberg.
Stop the fatbergs! No fat soils and grease down the drain.
If you think Barry's fatberg costume is genius, you should see his laugh.
The slosh box is used to replicate what's going on in the sewer system. And we're gonna do toilet paper in this box, new technology flushable wipe in this box, and a flushable diaper liner in the far box. So 30 minutes, these products have been slopping around in here. Toilet paper, hey, no problem, right? New technology flushable wipe, no problem, right? Flushable diaper liner is a problem. This product should not be labeled flushable, but look, it says biodegradable and flushable.
His mascot costume and flushability lab are tied to his field work. Now Barry wanted us to see the life cycle of wipes, starting with porta potties.
There's a wet wipe. See how strong it is?
Then it was off to a sewer clogged with wipes.
Down there is the grates. The wastewater comes, all the garbage and everything will get trapped on the grates. They'll rake the grates so that we can get it, put it into a bucket, and then we can analyze it, and then the water will flow through a lot faster too.
Swap the fatbergs.
Fatbergs. No fat soils and grease down the drain. So this is the outlet structure for the storm drains going directly to the river. So here's a wipe and wrapped around a stick. And then they rope. They create these big, long sections of rope.
Save the sewers.
What keeps me going is every time I talk to students, they say, oh my goodness, I'm worried about our future for drinking water. I'm worried about my future for the environment, and that's what keeps me going. Toilet, all that kind of stuff. When you look at sewer systems, they're very, very costly to maintain them. And to build them, they're very costly. And this wastewater treatment plant is worth millions of dollars, right? So we always say that pollution prevention is our most cost-effective and sustainable method to protect our sewer system and our environment. Sometimes it's just not that easy to get the message out.
Plastic egg, mustard package, lighter, needles.
Over $250 million a year is wasted in Canada for us to remove the garbage-like material.
All the way down the drain. Little plastic Nemo has found its way into the waste stream.
Some of the screenings that we got from the pumping station, and we're gonna wash it. Over $1 billion we've invested right across Canada in equipment that will help us operate our systems. But at the end of the day, our biggest tool for help is citizens right in their washrooms, making a proper choice between flushing only human waste and toilet paper down the toilet and putting everything else into the garbage can. There's a wet wipe.
Are you guys just advocating for pipe?
No, we were trying to keep the sewers clean.
All right, I rate it.
This is Foggy the Fatberg.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Who puts this down their drain?
Many people. So bend, yep.
Foggy. That deserves a hug. It's a high five.
Oh, wait, you're pretty sweaty, man. I'm not hugging you greasy fatberg.
Welcome to our week 4 update of our garbage collection journey. Core bay garbage. Now, unfortunately, all this you can't recycle here. So these have to go in the garbage. So we had 20 pounds of compost that we're throwing in the garbage this week. And this is a paper recycling for the week.
This is my big almost red.
Oh, yeah, I think
Plastic has only been around for 7 decades, and now it's everywhere. This is the Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands. It's so remote, the United States used it to test atomic weapons. And even here, where we filmed in 2018, the beaches were littered with, you guessed it,
Someone forgot their toothbrush.
I try to buy a lot more wooden toys than plastic toys, just because plastic breaks so easily and I don't want to keep replacing it. But of course, it's like double, triple the price.
Being a dad, I love toys to keep my boys busy. But walking into a toy store these days baffles my green consciousness. Seriously. On the one hand, society is rushing towards sustainability. Yet we parents, myself included, turn a blind eye to this polluting industry. I mean, what message does a store filled with wall-to-wall plastic leave on our impressionable children? And then you've got Rubens, which we were... The head honcho at Spin Master and I go way back to childhood. You know, the company that brought the world Paw Patrol. And it all started, ironically, with their most eco-friendly toy of all, the Earth Buddy, a stocking stuffed with seed and dirt that grows hair.
We just focused on innovative product when we started. For our first item, it really took off. It became like a pet rock. We were able to manufacture locally and just get local ingredients.
But that was decades ago. Now the world is populated with Paw Patrol action figures. So I wanted to know what their environmental plans were, considering the volume of plastic they add to the world's ever-growing mass.
When I was in Costa Rica, that's where it's, all these things are coming at you, and that's where I flipped the switch. And I'm like, if we have to reduce profits to make this world a better place, we're gonna do it.
Like many industries, it's a challenge greening up your product. When they recently acquired Rubik's Cube, they took it as an opportunity to figure out alternatives using virgin plastic in their toys. I was told that the Rubik's Cube is actually one of your most sustainably produced toys.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It is now.
Wow.
When we acquired it, it looked like this, which was 100% plastic. And now we have two versions. We have this, which is our Recube, which is 100% recycled material, 100%.
So this is made from upcycled plastic.
Yes.
And this isn't.
That's right. If I mixed them up and I handed them to you, full confidence, you would not be able to figure out which was which.
Right. If you can do that with this, why can't you do that with this?
I think we can do that with this as we progress. We had to overcome a lot of challenges to create this and make it feel exactly the same.
Like what?
First, it was the impact test. You drop it, does it break? No, it doesn't. But when we first started with recycled material, it did. And so we had to modify the recycled material that we were using. It didn't feel as good from a spring standpoint, so we had to change the strength of the spring. We had a really hard time matching colors. These are identical, but they were not in the beginning because recycled material is not pure, right? So figuring out the color matching was a challenge.
A small step for sure. And according to the Yale Environmental Review, there's plenty more work to be done. 90% of toys are made of plastic, and 80% of them end up in landfill. And 6% of landfills worldwide are comprised of toys. 60 million Barbie dolls are sold each year, creating emissions equivalent to burning 381 million gallons of gasoline, or enough fuel to fill up at least 25 million cars. On our way out of Spin Master, I was reminded that we humans are capable of outstanding things.
Can you also solve this one?
Yeah.
No, I need to put
You
it
do it
back.
with one hand? There we go.
Yeah. That's it.
If a person can solve a Rubik's Cube in 10 seconds with one hand, perhaps there's hope for more sustainable toys, with companies like Spin Master leading the charge. Just down the road in Kitchener, Ontario, is a new and novel approach to toy pollution. The Toy Exchange essentially rents out preschool kids' toys. Although the operation is small, the potential to disrupt the $11 billion preschool toy market is exciting, because their toys are not just any old toys, but ones made of wood.
Our toys are played with by an average of 8 kids rather than stuffed in a closet somewhere under the stairs for a potential future grandkid.
Reusing toys is an awesome idea, but I was curious to know if kids really care what their toys are made of. Perhaps Clark and Madison can give me some insight.
Oh, look at all the awesome, so many dinosaurs.
Andrew have all of these, and then you get all of those.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Clark.
So he's gonna take those. Those go bye-bye.
Bye, Clark. Thank you.
I am shocked right now.
Let's see what happens when it wears off
Okay.
after a little bit.
I put them in the laundry room.
Okay.
Does it really matter what material it's made of, or maybe not? Who knows?
Week 5, our garbage collection journey. This week we only had a quarter bag of garbage, and we had a lot of recycling this week. Oh wait, garbage,
Could you help me?
garbage, 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 garbage. Hey, recycle this, good. Garbage, clamshells for fruit, more clamshells. So we had a little bit of recycling this week.
Like most families, the Masons are confused about what goes where when it comes to everyday household waste.
It starts.
But what about when you clear out your closet? What's the right thing to do with your out-of-date leather pants? Or those bath mats and towels that have seen better days? Janet and Paul had one idea to at least get rid of their fabric waste.
We're here to drop off stuff for the dogs and cats.
So typically towels and that we use in cat cages. Sheets and blankets and comforters we use a lot for the dogs.
Living in a tiny space, there's little room for much of anything. Clothing is kept to a minimum, but there are exceptions.
Big soccer fan, big soccer jersey fan, clearly. So this is my lifelong collection.
Could you ever imagine throwing this away?
These things will never be thrown away. I think they'll be passed down generations, and one day they'll probably be in some kind of studio or maybe even like a museum or something like that.
These shirts will be cherished for generations. But the marketing machine in sports ensures that one team that used to have a home and away uniform now have a variety of collectible outfits, driving consumerism and a healthy income stream for sports teams. These are symbolic of our times, the high end of fast fashion. People like Aizaz will collect and cherish these treasures, but most of us treat our fashion as disposable. And what happens to all the teams that don't win? Where does their merch go?
In your neighborhood, when you donate clothes, some of it will be sold locally, but a lot of it won't be able to make any profit in the area. So it will enter what's called the global secondhand clothing trade, where it will be sold on to another sorter or collector or broker who will then export it to countries like Ghana.
That explains why my friends in El Salvador thought the Patriots won the Super Bowl. Think about the other alternative sports narratives, like the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup.
It's spring, and again the rush is on for the goodwill industry, and the magnificent task of converting waste into wages is in progress.
At Goodwill Industries, they've been taking our discarded stuff for over a century. Fashion outcasts are generally donated to places like the Goodwill, but even they face challenges getting rid of their unwanted apparel.
You have to go back to the origin of why do we have all of this waste, right? And we did a waste audit in 10 different municipalities across Ontario. Over the course of a year, we actually pulled the textiles right out of the garbage. And we analyzed them, we weighed them, we looked at the brand name, we looked at the fiber composition, the condition. And from that, we actually determined that there's roughly 500,000 tons of our unwanted post-consumer textiles going into Canada's landfills every single year. It represents about 7% of all plastic waste in Canada's landfills, so it's higher than electronics. The industry is roughly responsible for about 4% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually more than global aviation, shipping, and rail combined. This is baled to go to a broker, and so it's then the broker who buys this. They pay Goodwill by the pound, and then they resell it to the developing countries and the global south. It's an industry that's really built on relationships and trust, and there's some good actors and there's some bad actors. And what we're now seeing is footage of these bales being opened up in those countries. And in a 1,000-pound bale, maybe a dozen garments that are actually worthy of being resold in those markets.
This one be first, this one be second, this one be third.
When these bales are unwrapped, buyers sort the items into 3 piles. The first selection means the items are in good condition and will sell quickly. The second selection is a tougher sell, and the third is just garbage.
About 60% of what we're exporting is the garbage, pure garbage.
The under is so many. Today I didn't get lucky. The bay is not proper.
It's a dumping ground. It's waste colonialism. Mountains high of textiles that are burning. flooding the oceans. You know, the whole ocean floor, the coast of Ghana is covered in textiles. Washing up on the beaches, you can dig 20 feet down in the sand and pull up textiles. The answer isn't to have a complete ban. There's tens of thousands of people who work in those markets who rely on that clothing. But what they don't need is the stuff that's soiled, stained, smelly, in need of a lot of repair. That's the stuff we need to have local solutions for here in Canada. Where charities like Goodwill come in is that not only are they reusing and reselling the products and keeping them in life for as long as possible through that sort of resale operations, but they're now upcycling and repurposing as well, which just further extends the life.
Goodwill is trying to keep the waste in Canada by making new fashion out of old fashion. And I gotta say, some of the stuff is pretty cool.
Here you go. So here you've got the men's cabana short and the men's cabana shirt. Makeup bags that are being tested.
Even if this program was realized to its full potential, would it be able to process, you think, 500,000 tons of waste?
We don't grow cotton here, and knock on wood, we never will, because our climate won't ever get that warm. So we have to look at what exists already, and repurposing and recycling is what we can do. So industry has to make less, we as consumers have to buy less, then we need to take better care of our clothes to keep them out of the landfill, then we need to know what to do with them when we don't want them anymore, then we need charities and collectors to be doing things like this, we need government and legislation and policies that support all of that. And we need investors to invest in all of the equipment and technology that we need to make it happen.
One innovator I know has been developing tech to deal with the waste that comes from manufacturing our clothes. And she so happens to be my wife. Change maker. How big is the problem?
Pre-consumer waste is massive. There's enough generated by the apparel industry every year to give everyone on Earth 6 new adult-sized t-shirts.
What happens to this fabric waste?
Fabric waste is sometimes recycled, but more often it's landfilled or even worse, burned.
We had no idea when we set off looking at modern slavery and climate change in the brick industry that there was going to be this link to a garment industry. We're supposed to be using wood, for example, but actually these garments go in as a cheaper way of getting those really hot temperatures in the kiln. We found that 23 brick kilns were regularly burning garments, so it's hundreds of tons a day, potentially, of garments going into the brick industry.
This is pre-consumer waste. This is what our partners in India generate on a regular basis. Essentially, all of this gets inputted into our technology, and the output is really cool patchwork contemporary designs like this. The opportunity is massive. But as soon as regulation and policy actually catch up and make other people accountable for their waste, Nudnik will be there ready to turn their waste fabrics into cool new designs.
I'm so proud of you. Your wardrobe isn't only impacting places it's made, but right here at home, right down the road from your house. And that's where I found Chelsea Rockman and her students auditing plastic waste from Lake Ontario. Chelsea and her students aren't just interested in the large pieces of plastic they're pulling out of the lake on any given day, but also the ones you can't really see, created by doing your laundry.
When I started my lab at University of Toronto, we got a washing machine. We bought some filters and we said, let's just test a fleece blanket, see how many fibers leave the washing machine, and then see how many are trapped with these filters. And 80% were trapped with these filters. It's a lint filter, so it sits on the back of your washing machine, the water comes out the pipe, and it goes through essentially a filter. Our next step in that project, we worked with a group called Georgian Bay Forever in Parry Sound, and we got 100 people to put filters on their homes. So 10% of what was going to the wastewater treatment plant from washing machines was now diverted through these filters. And we actually saw a decrease in the amount of microfibers at the wastewater treatment plant. Microfibers are one of the most common types of microplastics we see in the environment. So we've done some studies in the lab where we've exposed organisms to microfibers. We've seen delays in development. We've seen reductions in growth. There's been about maybe 5 years of research on how microplastics impact mammalian species, including humans. So far, a lot of the studies have looked at endocrine disruption, so how microplastics may be affecting our reproductive systems. And there have been studies that have shown it to interact with sperm motility, sperm production. The solution there is for washing machine manufacturers to put washing machine filters inside the washing machine.
Good news, industry is listening, and you may soon see these filters as a mandatory feature on future washing machines. In the meantime, what are Chelsea and her students finding in the lake?
We get a lot of microplastic in our traps. So you can see like these little things are little bits of styrofoam, the white, but we get hundreds of thousands of pieces of small plastic out of the lake every year. We sample sport fish, so fish that are collected recreationally for eating. And the amount of microplastics that we see in those sport fish is higher than any species I've ever looked at. And we find it in every single fish. And I think the highest amount we've ever seen is more than 900 pieces in the stomach of one fish.
And it's no wonder when 10 million metric tons of plastic debris ends up in the Great Lakes yearly. That's the equivalent weight of 10 million leatherback turtles or 50 cruise ships.
6 cigar tips and 3 butts. Plastic bag.
We have to reduce the amount of plastic that we produce. We cannot keep making the types of single-use items, convenience items, the amounts of pile-up waste that we're making.
If the government won't create stronger legislation, you can make a difference by simply reducing the amount you use. Legislate plastic out of your life. It's spring and time for cleaning, which often means clearing out the garage and the bigger stuff you don't know what to do with.
Here we are cleaning out the garage. This is going to be a multi-day job and result in a lot of trash. Where to even start? For a while, we had 2 places, a place here and a place in Toronto. And then we moved back up here full-time. But then Toronto came up in here.
Most of our stuff is made from resources taken from places we never go. The town where the Masons live exists because of the iron ore found in the region a century ago that continues to feed the local steel plant. But living in their area of the city, you'd never know it. Or shall I say, smell it. Across town, this community endures high levels of air pollution, or as I like to say, the garbage we put in the air, which is a direct result of society's seemingly endless consumption of products made from steel. Like Canada's 26 million cars, 31 million barbecues, and 49,000 kilometers of railway tracks. How bad is it? Lots of soot on the playground here. Obviously, the pollution's falling from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smokestacks. This playground is kind of surrounded by these smokestacks.
Like my trampoline, the kids bounce on it, their hands are black. Their feet are black from all the soot or whatever is coming out in the air. It's pretty bad.
This group of concerned citizens has been fighting for clean air for decades.
If you look at the cancer incidence in that particular postal code, it is higher all across the board than the provincial average. So there's an impact there for sure.
And slowly we're getting people coming out of the woodwork willing to speak. So we are getting somewhere, but the level of pollution in the last 2 or 3 years has not been getting better. You look at the stacks, which is everybody sees those. They're getting worse.
Salva is a citizen activist who used to work inside the plant. He now reports air pollution infractions independently and so frequently, he was recently told the government would no longer respond to his messages.
So that stack right there is number 7 battery. So normally what I do is I sit here because it gives me a perfect view, mostly of number 8 and 9 battery. So that's where you're going to see lots of the emissions come out that I have on my website or Facebook or on YouTube. And they'll do stuff like leave a pipe wide open, the coke gas just spewing out of it.
These stacks are literally a quarter of a kilometer from this neighborhood.
Yep. You could smell it right now. And that's one of the common smells that people will complain about. It's hard to describe because it's like a chemical smell, right?
Yeah.
It gets pretty strong here, and there you have the pool, and that will open up soon, and people are in the park, right?
And the plant has a special exemption, which allows it to emit benzene and benzopyrene, cancer-causing agents, well above provincial standards.
I'm assuming, but I don't know for sure, that they're measuring like benzene at the meters. The meters aren't used for enforcement. So when the numbers are too high, the, I guess, best case scenario is they'll go to Algoma Steel and say, ask them if something's going on and if there's something they could do to minimize the impact, but it's not going to result in a fine.
This plant runs on coal, and it's not only the emissions from burning it that concern Salva.
People are wondering why there's a lot of particulate in there. That's coming off their coal piles.
That's blowing at us.
Yep. So imagine all of that is not included. So if they said this is how much particulate we released, none of that happening counts. So imagine if you're these homes here and you want to open up a window because it's a nice day. Like half of the time you got to keep that window closed. Is the ministry here walking here saying, oh, look at all this problem here. Hey, we should get them to put some dust suppressant on their roads or on the coal piles to control it. Most of the time they don't. That meter could read 500 every day. They'll just try and say to them, figure out how to change it, but they won't fine them for it. I even asked for an FOI for all the fines from 2009 until I think it was 2020, and there was none for air. Not even one, according to the ministry.
One fine. I can't stand here. It's so.
Yeah. There's literally days where I leave. I think I've done enough, but I feel guilty because I think I could leave.
Now, thanks to the tech boom creating millions of throwaway gadgets, one of the largest wetlands in the world, an area over 5,000 square kilometers near James Bay, is set to be exploited by the Ontario government. Minerals for electronics and car batteries will be mined, which isn't good news for the environment. One element, ferrochrome, will be taken from here to be processed in a plant where that dusty coal pile is now. And people are concerned.
I even said to the ministry manager, so would you live near a ferrochrome plant? Because they want to put it over here, back there. And he goes, oh, it's my personal preference. I wouldn't live near a factory. I said, yeah, and that's usually most people's preference. But unfortunately, sometimes that's your situation. This is where your house has been, or this is what you can afford. So you have to make sure that these businesses like them are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So it's a company town, right? Yeah. Isn't it hard for people to speak up because it's a company
Yeah,
town?
because everyone knows that steel, like Algoma Steel has brought a lot to the community. Jobs and prosperity to the community. So nobody wants to kind of step on their toes. But it gets to a point where you have to accept the reality of what you're doing and that there's a cost for that as well. So it may give you that prosperity of jobs and helping your economy. But at the same time, it's not without its problems, which is the pollution.
Instead of mining wetlands and running polluting factories, couldn't we just find the resources we need in our own discarded products? 24 hours a day, in this giant warehouse, teams of people smash apart your e-waste, mining minerals of value, and figuring out creative ways to dispose of the rest.
Historically, in the linear economy, you made something, you sold something, that thing broke eventually, and someone else managed its disposal.
And someone else paid for the disposal.
And somebody else paid for the disposal.
Somebody else was the taxpayer, right?
Somebody else was the taxpayer, and that's exactly it. We're already seeing the nature of the conversations that we have with producers change from a, how can you offer me the cheapest possible price, to how can I create the most efficient take-back system? How can I create circularity in my products from a design standpoint? You need somebody who's designing the product to think about, hey, one day I might want to take the battery out of this and replace it. I better design the product such that I'm not destroying the product in order to do that.
And the potential for circularity is staggering. A robust circular economy is projected to produce economic and social benefits of over 1.2 trillion euros by 2030.
We sort boards into various different grades because all circuit boards are worth money. They're just worth different kinds of money depending on what it is. But basically, they're going to get sorted into their various types. And then these are going to get sent downstream to precious metal refineries, who will be essentially recovering the precious metals. There's an evolving reuse aspect when it comes to boards, which is actually the recovery of chips. Every single one of these is a chip. You know, quite challenging to remove these in a way that you can still reuse them afterwards, but there are lots of companies who have figured out and are figuring out how to do that, because that's also a reuse opportunity.
An innovative company in Alberta invented a way to extract precious metals from e-waste. And lucky for me, they licensed the process to the British Royal Mint. So instead of going to Alberta, we were invited to the Mint to see how the UK plans to divert all of its e-waste and enrich themselves with gold and other precious metals. It's hard to believe the Mint has been in business for over 1,000 years. Is there a chemical process that you could let us in on that allows this to kind of dissolve down, or that's all secrets?
That's all the secret.
That's all the secret. Really? They'd buy you lunch.
So these are CPUs. These come out of computers. You can see the gold on these. It's quite
wow.
quite
So
visible.
that's all gold on there?
That's all gold around there. We want to reduce our reliance on mined gold, and there's a lot of gold within electronic waste. About 7% of the world's gold is contained within it. At the moment, the waste that is recycled tends to leave the UK and be smelted at high temperatures, either in Europe or in Asia. And we really want to focus on keeping that within our borders here, rather than shipping it with all those carbon miles and disposing of it in a unsustainable way, and then having to buy the gold back. Gold's our primary target, but we didn't want to be just pirates. There's a lot of other materials that are in there. So there's gold, there's silver, there's palladium, copper, tin, aluminium, steel. And so all of those will be recovered through the process.
I'm working out all my anger from seeing all that waste everywhere. Do you have a bag I could put that in? Like me, you're probably thinking, e-waste to gold? Cool. But what about our batteries, which are found in essentially everything these days? How easily can they be reused?
This is how we get it, right? This is mixed in a device. You got a cell phone in there, I saw. You got your home phone.
This is like
I don't even know. Yeah,
like
that's
the Price is Right. You want a camera?
There you go. This looks like a reclining chair of some sort. So, I mean,
batteries,
all manner of things.
Yeah. This is some sort of controller.
And that's more and more of a concern for us, because in the early days of this industry, you knew what had a battery in it. There was maybe 4, 5, 6 different types of products where you were guaranteed to have a battery in it every time, but everything else, it was fine. But, you know, increasingly, you know, toasters that are Wi-Fi enabled so they can toast your toast before you get home or what have you. I mean, increasingly, we're needing to look in almost every single product we touch for a battery, which is driving the cost up, to be honest.
This could be Donald Trump's hairdryer.
It could be. It's a great American hairdryer.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
But the smallest and most valuable materials are called rare earth elements, found in your discarded batteries. Quantum leaves the extraction process to others, and for good reason.
So this is what we're doing when we say we're prepping them for downstream shipment. You can see that it would be unsafe for us to put these loose into this barrel and put a lid on it and ship it downstream. We would end up basically creating a massive fire risk.
It'd make a nice shower curtain.
Made a very nice shower curtain, absolutely. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, yeah. You know, what I can't ignore in the whole electrification conversation is when you look at the demand curve for what we're going to need to electrify everything versus the supply of available cobalt, lithium, etc., they just don't line up. There's just not enough available supply right now to electrify everything.
As the world rushes towards electrifying itself and away from fossil fuels, I'm skeptical. Are we just replacing one problem with another? The EV narrative greenwashes the fact that manufacturing and recycling batteries is really bad for the environment. For example, every 1 ton of rare earth elements mined to make a typical EV battery produces 2,000 tons of toxic material, including radioactive waste. When batteries are recycled, the story is more grim for the environment. Batteries are either melted apart using an immense amount of energy, creating air pollution in the process, or they're dipped in an acid bath, creating a slurry of toxins to dispose of. It's estimated by 2040, the world will have to deal with 200,000 metric tons of lithium-ion batteries, a potential toxic catastrophe. So what are the alternatives? Did someone say helium?
Introducing the all-new helium car.
And action.
I love my helium car. It's so fun to drive. It's so fun and so fast. And sometimes I love it more than my kids.
Oops, wrong element. I meant hydrogen. And check out this ride.
Left-hand side.
Yep, oh yeah.
Left-hand side of the road.
Yep. Oh,
You're
sorry,
on the
yeah,
wrong side of
yeah,
the road.
that's right. Talk about high stress. Driving on the opposite side of a twisty road.
Okay, please do it'll damage all the wheels and things like that.
Little does he know, I don't have my license. Just kidding. Wow, this hydrogen ride is fun to drive. So what's going on under the hood?
There's the fuel cell in situ. It has the tank you can see just in front of it, which is behind the driver and passenger seat. This is an air blower, which pulls in oxygen from the outside and allows the fuel cell to do its stuff. This is our hydrogen fuel cell. This works just like the school experiments where you can feed electric through a glass of water and it splits the atoms and you get hydrogen and oxygen. This works just the same, but in reverse. So we put hydrogen and oxygen into the fuel cell. It does its magic, and out we get electric and water. And it's quite that simple. The electricity is stored in a bank of supercapacitors. You can flood it with electricity, and you can take as much out just as quick. And then when the power comes out of the supercaps, it goes to our motors. The car has 4 in-wheel motors. These are designed by ourselves, and that powers the car. So it's basically, it's a power station on demand.
This tank.
Yeah.
So the first reaction is, I'm not driving around a bomb.
Yeah, you think it's a bomb, yeah. Yeah, people think hydrogen's extremely flammable, which it is, but so is petrol. You know, and I can guarantee that your petrol tank on your vehicle is nowhere near as strong as this. If you want smiles per miles, these are the cars to drive. They're very, very nippy, very responsive, and everybody that sees one can't help but point and laugh at it. So you feel like a bit of a superstar at the moment, you know?
The reason we've got so many battery cars is that it's not a new technology. A battery car broke the land speed record in 1899, the first car to do 100 kilometers an hour. And so we've had them as long as we've had petrol cars. We've certainly got better batteries. If you're commuting 20 miles a day, 5 days a week, and you can trickle charge at night, battery cars really make sense. But as the range becomes longer, it makes less and less sense.
I wonder if these cars use the same amount of rare earth elements as electric cars.
That fuel cell has got about 5 grams of platinum in. So it's about the same as a catalytic converter. And that platinum content is going down quite rapidly with fuel cell development. Furthermore, it is 100% recoverable. Riversimple is set up entirely from a sustainability perspective. It's social, financial sustainability as well as environmental sustainability. And it's not just CO2, it's resources, and we've just simply got to stop.
Looking out the window of my hydrogen ride, I notice piles of trash dotting this otherwise pristine countryside. It's household and commercial waste that's illegally dumped, which is not unusual. In fact, 2/3 of the world's waste is fly-tipped, as they say over here.
I'm here at the site of a former Indian restaurant.
And Martin is doing something about it.
Fly tipping. Fly tipping. No, it's fly tipping.
Could this be my doppelganger?
The future's important, right? We're all going to live the rest of our lives in it. And this country is a skip.
You could say Martin is a vigilante of sorts. He built a website to blow the whistle on fly tippers. But what he enjoys the most is catching them in the act.
These are night vision and they record.
So do you have anything to apprehend the criminals? Any mace or hand ties?
No, you don't get that over here. You have to run.
You gotta run?
I've caught people fly tipping and they have literally chased me down with dogs. So
you bring dog treats?
No, I should do, really. That's not a bad idea. But there was a dump.
On the way to a stakeout, Martin takes me to the scene of one crime. This may not look like much, but according to the World Bank, most of the 2 billion tons of waste the world creates yearly is illegally burned, dumped at sea, or just tossed away like this. It says right there, we prosecute and publicly shame fly tippers.
95% of people will see a sign and they won't fly tip. The other 5% of people can't read or they just don't care. So we're after the 5% tonight. We have caught people on camera, we've posted them on social media, we've given footage to newspapers, TV channels, news stations. Nothing quite like a good shaming, is there?
It's true. No one likes a good shaming.
No. I mean, it used to work here in days of old when they used to put someone in the stocks and give them a good, throw a few apples at them and leave them in a village square for a couple of days.
So I'm heading into a forest with military gear to nab some tippers. What could go wrong?
They drive lorries down this path and they fly tip right at the top next to the woods. So on private property, it costs fortunes to clean up. You and I, we're going to go up there, we're going to put some camo gear on, and we're going to stake out and see if we get lucky tonight.
All right.
This guy, quite often, comes on this day of the week. So I'm not saying it's going to be clockwork and it's touch and go because you never know what they've been up to. But let's put the ghillie suits on, jump in the bushes and see if we can catch ourselves a fly tipper on camera. Now, if you roll around on the floor, it picks all the leaves up and then it really camouflages you. Put your hands in the badger hole and then you rub dirt on your face.
Am I invisible now?
So what the hell is poutine?
It's French fries with cheese curds on it, with gravy on top.
Oh my God, that sounds so good. Sometimes it's not just a few hours, it's a few days or even a few weeks. Yeah, it's painstaking work. It's laborious, cold, and often very lonely. It's rather like being a special forces sniper or something like that.
When Martin admits the tippers may not show up for days, and all our talk of poutine brings on severe pangs of hunger, I break it to him that we have a flight to catch. Sometimes there isn't a payoff, but at least it's comforting to know that I'm not alone in my obsession with waste.
Week 10, we're tired of doing these videos. Recycling, a lot of garbage, around 20 pounds of compost, and this is paper.
The Masons are enjoying spring, but not as much as Clark these days. How long did the wood dinosaurs last?
After you left, I would say about a week and a half. And then he started asking about his brown T-Rex. That's one of his favorites. And then he walked into the the laundry room where they were, and he saw them, and I was just like, oh, like, yeah, can I play with those? And I said, okay, well, you have to trade back the wood dinosaurs. He goes, okay. That was the end of that.
Although purging the plastic toys wasn't a huge success, Janet is excited about her worms and how they're tackling a bigger waste stream.
It's been pretty easy. I've been trying to keep up with it. The only downside is that we've been throwing out a lot of the things that could go into the composter because it was more than what we could put in there.
There's a community garden near here. You could put your stuff on the pile there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was a compost pile.
Most of the worms are in the box where the stuff they want to eat is.
Yeah, so I was just wondering whether they're happy and they're trying to escape. That's why they're all coming up to the top, or if they were like.
If you had lots on the lid, then there may be some issues in the box. But if there's not, but you got good moisture. A few worms on the lid is normal. It looks perfect.
Okay.
It looks perfect.
Great.
Is that Jimmy Hoffa? No.
No meat, no fat, no bones.
Yeah.
Worms are cool, but reducing food waste is key. So Janet stumbles upon another way to shop.
When food gets thrown out, most times it ends up in a landfill, gets covered by the garbage, and when it rots, it doesn't have oxygen. And the statistic is if international food waste were a country, it'd be the third leading cause of greenhouse gas emission behind the US and China. Which just floored me. It's not cars and factories, it's food that's being tossed, and we have so many people that are hungry. The idea was if there's a way for the store to mark the price of that food down, send me a notification on my phone, I could see the deal through my phone, pay through my phone, and pick it up in the store the same day. People would shop like that all the time. And that's what we built. We took the discount food rack, made it look cool, put it on your cell phone. So it's very rare where in a marketplace model, everybody wins. And here, the grocer's winning because financially it's benefiting their bottom line. Shoppers are winning because they're able to afford greater than they would have in the past, and they're trying different things, and they're feeding their families healthier. The environment's winning.
In 2022, we diverted about 9.4 million kilograms of food waste from the landfill.
That is enough to feed just over 4 million Canadians a day.
Nice.
And this is just a pilot project. The potential to curb our food waste is mind-boggling. It's nice to remember that small actions can save a lot of valuable items from being thrown away. And that desire to prevent waste is what's bringing Al and Aizaz and our cameras to what appears to be a sweatshop run by seniors in downtown Toronto.
This is what we call the repair cafe. Almost anything that you can carry that is in need of repair, that needs to be fixed, can be brought here, and chances are you'll get it fixed, and it stops it from going in the landfill. Computers, jewelry, any household items you can carry, bicycles, watches, it runs the gamut.
What's happened with this lamp is that every time we turn it on, it'll be on for a little bit, but then it sort of flickers and turns off again, so it's...
In an attempt to curb their waste, Al and Aizaz paid a visit to fix a pesky lamp.
So you got a bad socket here, basically, a bad switch.
It's been going on for about 10 years. I think it was 9,000 items that had been brought in the previous 8 years, and out of that, probably 70% had been successfully repaired and were being reused.
Hey, the moment of truth.
These fix-it cafes take place all over the country, extending the lives of millions of items and keeping them from landfill. But not everything is easy to fix. In fact, many manufacturers make it almost impossible, forcing consumers to buy new. Good news, the trend is changing as the cost of materials and manufacturing has skyrocketed. New business models where manufacturers take back, upgrade, and refurbish items to resell is an emerging trend. It's good for the consumer and even better for the environment. And regulations are changing too. Much like Europe, places like Ontario are now putting the responsibility for waste on the shoulders of producers, not taxpayer-supported recycling programs.
The telecommunications sector, which is a vertical that we play in, they're early adopters of this whole strategy. The modems and the routers and the set-top boxes that we get in our households when we sign up with the various carriers, Those have been in 6 other households, most likely. You know, historically, that stuff comes in, it gets refurbished, it gets wiped, it gets managed securely, and then it gets redeployed. And then it comes back again, same process, and gets redeployed.
So where are we at with Al and Aizaz?
I estimated 12 bags of garbage, 24 bags of recycling, and then 12 of organics. 12 is my lucky number.
And I went much higher on the garbage, 21 bags of garbage. I did 21 of recycling too, and I went with 40 on the organics.
What were our actual numbers then? So we did 13 bags of garbage, 18 bags of recycling, and 18 bags of organics.
I would have considered myself pretty conscious before this until you actually start to track some of these things, and then you're like, oh no, like I really didn't have an idea of how much I use, how much I consume, how much I waste. Same way if you're on a fitness journey, you end up checking like calories and ingredients. It's the exact same thing. You know, like now when you, as soon as you're on a bit more of a sustainable path, you start to question everything.
One of the highlights is just knowing what's in our waste. Like, I think packaging waste is 95% of what we actually throw out.
As we have seen, online shopping creates a staggering amount of cardboard waste. The average North American uses 7 trees a year worth of paper products. So what does that mean for our forests? North of Timmins, Ontario, bush pilot, environmental activist, lawyer, and all-around cool dude, Joel Theriault, prepares his plane as I mentally prepare my will.
Doesn't.
So this isn't a replica of one that was built originally. This is 70 years old.
This is an original.
It's an original.
Yeah, this is an original. If you want to call your families and tell them you're going to go on a 70-year-old plane, it's fine. If not, I understand that as well.
Seriously, I love to fly, but what I don't love seeing is how these forests are impacted by our thirst for cardboard and building materials.
They're changing these mixed forests from mixed, diverse boreal forest to monoculture, spruce, pine, fir, SPF. That's where your 2x4 comes from. That's the money tree.
A 36-year-old study has shown that monoculture pine forests that have been chemically groomed have a burn rate 840% higher than aspen forests. Perhaps that's another reason we have more raging wildfires these days.
It's pretty commonly understood that the original diverse forests with more deciduous vegetation created natural fire breaks. So these pure pine tree plantations, they go up like a matchbox.
In addition, they don't carbon capture as efficiently and are susceptible to insect infestations.
The forestry that we're using in Ontario is basically to clear cut these mixed, diverse forests and then spray them with chemical herbicides to wipe out everything but the conifers. Before the spray would have happened, this would have been all full of blueberries, all full of food, all full of raspberries, would have been full of animal food. The bears were in here, the wolves were in here eating the blueberries. After the spray happens, it changes the type of plants that grow. The blueberries are almost completely gone. The raspberries are almost completely gone. And it changes it to weeds that the animals don't really eat. If a farmer wants to spray a glyphosate-based product into an area where he's going to go forage livestock, there's not one single glyphosate-based product where he can spray it and then immediately graze his livestock and then immediately slaughter that livestock and send it to harvest, to send it for human consumption. Not one. But in a forestry setting, it's happening all the time. There's the spray, the moose walks through it, the moose eats it. A mile down the road, some hunter shoots it, the hunter eats it. The hunter doesn't understand why they're getting sick. I experienced it with bear meat, dry itchy eyes, dry mouth, headaches, nausea, vomiting, And those symptoms all line up perfectly with overexposure to glyphosate.
Joel raises money to fight pesticide use in forestry by selling billboards.
2001, Quebec made this illegal to spray these chemicals. And in Ontario, the decision was made to continue spraying these chemicals because the priority has been and continues to be corporate profits. And it's not even a lot. It was a 1% profit margin difference 5 years ago. Now the price of lumber doubled.
With 22 million hectares of Canada's forest, or an area 4 times the size of Nova Scotia, managed by forestry companies based overseas, it's easy to see how profits are more important than the environment in foreign boardrooms, and why it's important to use less and save the trees. How did the Masons do?
Here's the reveal. That's it. This is our recycle. All right. Oh, yeah, we're gonna make some more space here. Oh my God.
Honestly, I feel like we would have had a lot more, especially considering that we have two
Little
kids.
I thought we'd have, honestly, at least triple this. Thought we'd at least double that, and like definitely double that for sure. I'm glad that we did this. You know, it was a lot of work, not what I thought. You know, I'm glad I learned a lot. And I'm kind of proud of the amount of garbage we produce is not as much as I thought it was.
Relieved that we don't have to store it anymore. But yeah, happy that we did it, actually, so learned a lot.
There goes 3 months of garbage, Janet. We're done.
Thank goodness.
I feel actually kind of sad and kind of confused.
I do also. It's 20 years later, and not much has changed. But at least we haven't given up. Innovators and activists like Chelsea, Barry, Josh, Clayton, Kelly, Liz, Joel, Salva, and Lindsay, and families like yours and mine are taking tiny steps and making a big impact. But how can we get everyone on board in these divisive times? David McRaney knows how to change minds. He wrote a best-selling book on the subject, a superpower of sorts that comes down to one thing: stop talking and start listening.
So if you open your conversation with this climate change denier by saying anything that could be interpreted as you should be ashamed for what you think, feel, and believe, and you ought to do this thing that is noble and good that I think is noble and good because I'm telling you ought to do it. In fact, look at all these people that are telling you ought to do it.
Just stop preaching. You don't want to be preaching to people.
That's right, because they're just going to push away from a purely emotional reaction to push away to whatever it is you're suggesting. This isn't something that's distant 200 years from now. This isn't something that's happening on the far side of the planet. It's not something happening at the bottom of the ocean. This is happening right outside your door. This is affecting your kids. This is affecting your mom. This is affecting your dad. You make it close. You make it something that allows a person to feel like they're being their more authentic self by being engaged in it. And then you give them a very easy way to participate. Make it so that that person can feel like, I can make this little tiny little thing happen and I'm in control of that and that's good enough. I feel good about it.
I loved spending time with David, but it's what he said towards the end of our chat that gave me hope for the next generation.
When it comes to ending slavery, when it comes to women's suffrage, when it comes to same-sex marriage, when it comes to even things like smoking norms, I'm an optimist in the sense that historically we figured everything out so far.
I agree, but we need everyone on board because as my mentor, Bob Hunter, the founder of Greenpeace, once said to me, the revolution starts at home. And I say, the revolution starts with you.